Yeah, so, I mean, this is your last chance to go and catch Rusty if you want. I actually want this to be something interactive. I don't profess to know all about free software on Android. I'm just going to, guide the discussion. I have some things to say, and, we'll get there if this is going to work. So, a little about me. I mean, I've been programming for a long time, and my programs have been given away for not quite as long, and I've been using free software for quite a few years now. I switched full-time in 1998, and I'm responsible for a card dev server called Davacal, which I started in 2005. Then in the beginning of last year I got an Android phone, and I got pissed off by the end of last year when I couldn't really use effectively my new shiny Android phone with my card dev server, so I decided to write my own app on Android, and I've written a bunch of apps since then. So the CalDev client on Android is one free software app that I've written on Android. And since then I've been working quite a lot on Android, been writing tablet apps, and me and a friend have probably written about 15 apps altogether in the last year. So we've been sort of doing contracting stuff and things like that with it. But I'm here to talk about Android and free software in particular. There's I missed a slide. I didn't miss a slide. That's odd. I did have a table of contents in there. Okay, so excuse me. I really want to find it. Sorry.
Okay, there's a slide from that.
Right. Okay, I've figured out what's gone wrong.
Who's got the sound of these?
You can actually get that as a widget for your phone.
Okay. Right.
There we go.
There we go. Sorry about that. The first things I want to talk about are market issues with Android. Then we're going to talk about issues with coding for Android. Although there's been quite a lot of discussion about that earlier today in some of the other talks. Issues about community on Android, and then how do you actually get paid for developing in this world, particularly with a focus on developing free software. And then I'll briefly talk about some of the alternatives to Android, although you probably know what they are. This network shit is getting annoying too. Okay, so market issues. I like to looking at the market. So I think that the difference, in a lot of ways, between the Android and its nearest competitor is that it can be kind of analogous to the cathedral and bazaar kind of model that we have. We talk about a lot in open source. Where on Android, you can build your app, you can log into Google's market and have your app online in the market within a couple of hours. In the Apple ecosystem, you have to submit that to the high priests of their market, and they will perhaps bless it and look upon it as good and let it let it through to the people, and if it does anything wrong, it will be, removed and so on. The Android ones, they just go out there. There's lots of apps in the market, and you get quite a wide range. You don't get the same. You don't get the same quality assurance out of them, but then there is ratings and so on, and you can usually spot the ones that are crap. Sometimes not. But the free market in Android, a lot of the time, the community doesn't really seem any different. The free software community doesn't seem any different to the apps that are advertising supported, or that are some kind of company trolling for your email address or other information so that they give you the app in return for the personal information that you might not actually have wanted to give away. So I think this is something that we need to work out within free software, how to differentiate our products from these sorts of things. Maybe we don't want to. I'm kind of interested to see, what people think about that. Should we be trying to differentiate ourselves from advertising supported?
And there's a secondary problem, which is that there have been people who've been taking free software, open source software, and rebranding or re-releasing it as something that is then breaking in advertising revenue or information for their purposes. And so that's the problem, because in the curated Apple model, it's quick, it's easy to shut them down. In the Android model, it's not so easy to shut them down. There are developers who've been quite angry that it can take weeks or months to shut down someone who's basically copied their app and re-released it, which is, of course, not legal. But
Right.
Adam, you have something you want to say?
The MPEG developers have been dealing with that kind of stuff even before smartphones became huge.
Right.
if you don't know, powers a lot of video playing, the libav libraries. A lot of developers don't even know that it's GPL or choose to ignore it, wrap it up in some UI, release it, and potentially make money from it without even acknowledging that project.
Yep.
So they've had to design a whole system, a whole workflow around dealing with violations of the GPL for their project.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'd like to have that level of success, I guess, in some ways, but it certainly is a problem. And I mean, advertising supported can cover a lot of things as well. Like, I have an Air New Zealand app on my phone, which is free, and I mean, it's certainly advertising Air New Zealand, but it's providing me with some useful functionality for them as well. So I choose that. The ones I hate are the ones that just display some random bit of text at the bottom of the screen and use up my real estate.
or it's not clear where the bargain is. It's one thing when you choose to make an informed
Yeah.
choice, but when it's an uninformed choice, that's more of the problem.
So who here has an Android phone? I mean, most of you, yeah, bar one or two. And how many of you have actually installed applications on there that you pay for?
Sorry?
How many of you have installed applications on your phone that you pay for? Yeah. And were they free software applications, or were they? No, it's mostly not. But you do buy applications. But this, so I mean, it's a significant minority who are paying for applications to install on the phone. But I think that's quite different to the iPhone market, where most people with an iPhone have paid for the applications, or have paid for some applications that they install on it. It seems to be quite a different way that the community works. I mean, one thing is when you get an iPhone, you have to hand your credit card details over before you can even use the damn thing, you know. Whereas with Android, you just have to create an email account in the process of turning it on. So there's more to do. So in the paid market, there is, you know, millions of customers, hundreds of thousands of apps, and really dozens of people paying for them. It's not a big revenue model, but there are apps that you can pay for, and people do. Not that many. For my own application, I've released it into the market as a paid app. So you can download the source code and build it, and it's available in other ways as a free app. But you know, people do buy it and pay for it. Not many. And I've had that complaint quite regularly about people saying, "Oh, what? I have to use a credit card to install this." So people who have not installed, because I'm heavily involved in the free software community, most of the people that I'm talking to about this are free software people, and they don't tend to have so much interest in providing their credit card details to Google. I think is more their paranoia. Most of them do have credit cards. Yeah, you can't turn an iPhone on without getting it. So other things, coding issues I see with Android, there is only one language that you can really code efficiently on Android. Yeah.
Scala compiles to it quite nicely.
Scala.
And anything else that can compile to a Java class file, and so that gives you things like Groovy and other JVM targeting languages.
Yeah.
And Java is the one where all the documentation is.
The documentation is all there for Java. I mean, the support is all there for Java, and yep, sure, you can write C programs for it as well, but they are harder to install across a wide range of devices. You know, the language support and the device support is there. I think that you tend to flow into writing a Java app for it. But some of these JavaScript frameworks people were talking about this morning, pretty good as well for cross-platform things. I'm not convinced they're a solution for everything. I think there are lots of good reasons for writing in the best supported mode for the device. I mean, I chose to learn Java to write for the device, but, rather than try and write in PHP or something.
JavaScript in PhoneGap is nice.
Yeah. Looking at that this morning, I didn't see any easy way of doing localization within that sort of framework. I don't know. In Java certainly, I mean, ACAL is usable in sort of 10 languages or so. I don't know what the frameworks are like for localization in other.
I would hazard guess there's a JavaScript plugin somewhere with localization.
Yeah. So, and of course the devices are getting a lot more powerful. In fact, I'm hoping to develop natively on the next quad-core ECAD or whatever it is. Another thing I find difficult in the Android environment is the use of libraries. So when you put your app on there, you're providing all of the libraries that come with it, unless you're using the standard ones that come with the device. So it's likely that there are multiple copies of common libraries on the device, which is, to me, is an inefficient use of space. We don't do that on our Linux systems. We expect the libraries to all be there, and we'll just use the ones that are on the device. It feels bad for me to have multiple copies of the same libraries on there all the time. There's also no easy way to indicate dependencies within applications. So I can't say that this app depends on having this one installed. Therefore, when you install this, it automatically installs the other one, which I find that's something that I miss from Linux, and it was very easy to do that. And most of the libraries that I've found for Java tend to be pretty heavyweight. Java itself is often heavyweight in ways that don't suit the mobile device. So the enum, just as a random example, there's a whole lot of baggage that enum does in Java, which is not necessary for most uses of enum. And the Android coding rules recommend that you don't use enums, that you use defined constants. Community issues about it. The people using these devices aren't free software geeks. They are just people in the street. You know, my mum, my aunt, whatever, niece, nephew. The sorts of people using these, and they have no idea what free software is. And I think there's an opportunity there to provide education to people about free software through the applications they're using. Because when they find themselves using something that is cool and is particularly free, we should perhaps deliver some evangelism along with it.
Call it freedom software.
Freedom software, yeah.
Popping up an ad saying this is free software. Just a permanent bar. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you can do that. I mean, one of the things I think is quite good, in some cases I've seen people, throw up the GPL and insist you accept it or something like that.
People love legalese.
I know they expect it.
Which doesn't work, because the GPL's a code.
That's right. It's not a new one.
I know, but I have seen it done in places.
It's not like that. I mean, you think about it. I mean, with the iPhone, when there's an iTunes license agreement update, which is about 28 times a year, having owned an iPhone past, every single time it comes with 173 pages of real boilerplate. I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm actually not. I don't think anybody likes that. So I don't think.
Also, I think some of the installer packages, there are standardized installers that people use. This might be more for desktop than for mobile, but the installer packages usually have put your EULA in here, and so people often just say, let's throw the GPL in there.
I think the point I'm sort of getting at is I agree that it'd be great to evangelise this. I mean, three of my non-tech friends back home have switched to Android in the last 2 months. It's really good, but we've got to do it in a way that's not just rolling modules out.
One of the best ways I've come across to evangelise it is to tell people about a product called F-Droid. Who here's heard of F-Droid? Okay, and so all three of you have it installed on your phones, right? No. Just you. Okay, well, so F-Droid, check out fdroid.org. So F-Droid is a market app. It is a market. The only things it installs are free software apps. And, when it displays you the list, it lists the license down the left-hand side, Apache, LGPL, whatever. And it'll install apps just the same as other ones, but all of the apps that it deals with, the source code is available and it is available under a free license. So that's certainly, I think, but the guy who wrote it doesn't want to take money away from legitimate developers, and so he only makes it available as a download from fdroid.org. So you have to actually go to fdroid.org and you have to enable installing off-market applications.
Added problem too, I've just gone to fdroid.org and
it's pretty hard to find the link to actually install it. Yeah.
I was hoping for a QR code or something like that.
Yeah.
That would come back to the market. You better hit the repository link.
You've got to hit the repository link. Yeah. But he probably detected that you're browsing it on a real device, not on No, I don't think he does actually. But.
As an aside, presenters, QR codes on your slides would be very good actually. Right. Take you to the URLs that you've got there, a QR code.
I talk to you already on the top of that one.
That's fine.
Yeah, I'll do that in the next version.
Sweet.
So free is more meaningful to people than Libre, but it doesn't convey the same thing. I am talking about free software, not
Free as in beer.
Not free as in beer, exactly. So, but F-Droid is a good thing.
I'm pretty sure Google is having a little free software logo on each thing that's registered link to the source code as well.
Yeah, this F-Droid does have a link to the source code. So each application that you install through F-Droid, you know, in the F-Droid kind of version of the market, there's a link to the source code, and there's a link to the web page about it, and there's a link to, you know, how to pay the developer and stuff as well. So, yeah, it's good. So I mean, there's a bunch of ways of making money out of Android that I could have been able to think of, and I've, you know, tried several of these. The advertising is one way. I'm not particularly happy with it. I don't like seeing advertising on my phone myself. It uses up bandwidth that I was using up when I wanted to use it. It takes up screen real estate that I'd rather I had available to the application. In my CalDev client, you know, I've chosen to put it in the market for a couple of bucks. The other one is to sell associated services, so apps that give you access to something that you otherwise can't, and you have to pay a subscription fee for those services. And for some people, of course, it's just not important; they don't mind.
There's also donateware.
Donateware, yeah.
Right, and associated with that is nagware.
Right, yes, I'd forgotten about nagware. I'd edited it out of my
and then, of course, there's the an evil one, which is sell your customer base to someone.
Yes.
Which is, of course, the TV model.
I have a particularly good app I like on here that is donateware combined with nagware. You know? So they
have you donated?
And every now and again, they tell you that you haven't.
It knows, does it?
Yeah.
I've seen some really bad implementations of that where they've done a random number generator to display the nag, and it just continuously pops up and tells you to buy the app, so it gets uninstalled and open as a site.
Yeah.
You can get to the point where the ads are so annoying that you spend quite a lot of time in simply user remove them, so that blocking things you can do, or you can put shims into the code to block the ads.
Right.
Most of them all use the same.
One of the first things you'll see in the list of F-Droid is an ad blocker. It's
it can get quite involved sometimes, but most of them use the same services behind the scenes, so you can go and basically return true then and call them display ad there.
Oh, there's an important one you left out, which is in-app sales.
What?
In-app sales, that's a very popular
Oh,
one.
right.
Games
Yeah.
especially a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Buying maps or whatever.
Yeah. Or
Yeah. Yes.
Looking out your avatar will do.
Yeah.
And that's controversial when it's done with kids, because kids may not, or indeed the parents may not always realise that by buying an app for the kid, they're handing the kid the opportunity to now spend hundreds of dollars on in-app sales.
It's okay, kids can't use Android because to have a Google account you have to be over 13. So, you know...
Yeah, like that's it, I'm stopping.
I can remember one other industry that worked really well for.
Press
Yeah.
yes if you're over 18.
Of course, then there's the legislative Larry method, which is to ask questions that only an old fogey would know the answer to.
Yeah, right,
It doesn't
right.
age as well, though, that's the problem.
Well, unfortunately, Google kind of ruins that, doesn't it?
That's
Yeah,
right.
so either that or Wikipedia, yeah. But, you know, I'd like to continue writing free apps for Android, but I'd also like to work out some way that I can send my kids to school while I do it. So, you know, I think that the you know, getting paid for this stuff is something that we leave out all too often. So it's an important discussion to have. Anyway, I don't. There are a bunch of alternatives to Android. So iOS, obviously, you know, that's kind of got some of the same drawbacks as Android in that it's limited language support. It's got some even more pretty horrible drawbacks, particularly in terms of free software. Apple are very free software unfriendly, unless you want to use the BSD license. Which
I discovered I can't even install Xcode without signing up for some sort of Apple App Store thing.
And if you look at the developer agreement, it pretty much says that you're not going to release the app at a lower price anywhere else. So if you try and sell it in the App Store, you can't give it away for free somewhere. There's lots of things. It seems kind of poisonous. The WebOS, which, you know, looked pretty cool from time to time, but it only has really the couple of devices, and it seems like it's going into some weird corner of the market
I
for
noticed Ars Technica was advocating that ATP seriously consider open sourcing it. Doesn't mean it'll happen.
No, well, Ars Technica is probably not where they get their decisions from. There's this KDE offshoot, Plasma Active. I don't know if anybody's seen or heard of it. It looks kind of cool.
Nobody's going to run it.
Is it just another open MoCo though?
Well, Plasma Active is the operating system thing. It's not hardware. OpenMoco was hardware.
Yeah.
And there's the Nego Tizen, whatever they're calling it this week, and that looks damn nice when you see a device running it. I mean, very, very slick.
Boot to Gecko.
Huh?
Boot to Gecko.
Boot to.
Boot to Gecko. That's the Mozilla project.
Oh, okay, right. Yep. Yeah, I haven't. I mean, yeah, there are more.
Sugar. Sugar's going to.
Yeah. Sugar.
Yep.
That's the answer. Right, and we'll come along tomorrow and learn all about that. Is that right?
I will be talking about it tomorrow morning at 10:30.
Excellent. Right. Because, yeah, well, is Sugar going away from being focused on children, pedagogy?
No, it is still focused on children, but if you're interested in furthering education, and you're interested in free software, then Sugar's a natural choice.
Yeah, I mean, and Sugar, has lots of UI things that would be well suited to tablets and stuff as well. And there are other sort of browser-based things, and so on. So, I still think though that at present.
You can publish open source apps in Windows Phone 7.
Yes, I was waiting for you to tell me that.
Isn't it mobile 8 or something the new one? Is that right? Sorry? Is it still 7 or is it 8? Windows Phone 7.5 is still on. Is it 7.5? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how hard it is to develop for Windows Phone 7. I mean, I probably can't run the development kit on my computer, so that probably makes it a no-no for me.
Unless you can use the Xamarin stuff.
Pardon?
Lose the mono droid and the mono tool set, tool chain.
Right.
But yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to impose on you.
No, that's fine. I was waiting for you to say that anyway. So, but I think at the moment Android is the only reasonable game in town. It is, while Google have been chastised for not releasing the source code to Android for the Android 3.x series, they have now released the 4.
And the 3.x, it's in the 4.x.
Yeah, and the 3.x was actually available from suppliers. People who produced Android devices running that did make GPL releases of it available, so it was there. It's just Google didn't.
Right, but they're advising you how to use it, but in the ice cream sandwich code drop, it's actually the whole history, so actually all of the previous stuff is in there, they just tell you to please don't because it's messy. Right,
and that's probably why. So I've just got a quote here from James Purser, which I thought was quite nice. I mean, I asked this question on Google Plus, and this is that's what James said. He's happy with it as a FOSS platform, and others are as well. Even Laborn, who's speaking in the room next door at the moment, and would otherwise be in the room, probably saying what he feels about this. When I asked him yesterday, he said he loves it as a development platform, as a thing for free software. He's had 10,000 downloads of his book catalogue. So.
Even though you said it's not too bad, it could be better, but not too bad.
Yeah.
High praise.
Do we need to educate people? Free as in beer versus free as in software. I mean, I think we need to continue that mantra, or find a better mantra. Maybe I get a bit tired with it, but maybe that's just because I hear it too often. You haven't heard it often? Free as in beer versus free as in software. So, if
free as in speech, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
In Spanish and Romance languages, they have the term libre, which is the same root as liberty.
And gratis.
And gratis, which is which means free of no cost. And so they differentiate. They call it libre software. And we call it free software, but free in English means both. Free as in gratis, and it also means free as in libre. Does that help? Okay, well I suck, but...
discussion on the topic. It's easy to find if you Google for it.
Yeah.
In English, the word free means more than one thing, and we're trying to distinguish the multiple meanings of the word free. And so we're forced to qualify to indicate that what we're trying to say is free as in your liberty, not necessarily that.
So I was trying to explain to people that open source software is just software you don't have to pay for,
Right.
but that there's actually more behind it, that there is the liberty to modify it, change it, or do whatever you like with it without being forced or controlled in some way.
I mean, I call this talk free software in the Android ecosystem because specifically I'm talking about free software as Richard Stallman would talk about free software.
Which is why I jokingly suggested calling it freedom software. And the reason I'm joking rather than serious is because the problem is it has overtones of freedom fries and we don't want to go there.
And, but hence my first slide, which showed the GNU with the Android colour scheme. Anyway, but this was something Jeremy Visser said on Google Plus as well, which I thought was pretty good. And I thought it pretty much echoed what this guy said quite a long time ago. So. It's, you know, there's still work to do about teaching people what free software is. A lot of work. So I think that's pretty much it. If people have discussion, questions, or whatever, I'm happy to talk further, either now or over dinner or any time this week.
Any questions at all?
I'm not an Android user, so there's some people will find my ignorance. Hasn't anybody tried to run a market that's not the Google market?
There are lots.
Yeah, but
Oh, well...
there's too many or what?
No, there are plenty. I mean, lots of markets. Some phone suppliers have their own markets. There's F-Droid as a market. There are other... I get emails all the time from somebody or other saying, stick your apps in our market, and so on.
Which is the tablet? Is it the Kindle or the...
Oh, yeah, the Nook. Is it? The Nookie reader. Yeah.
It's the default market.
Yeah. It's on all the devices. So the Google market is on all the devices. It's always there. Well, it's except on the Nook, perhaps. The Amazon market and the Barnes and Noble market are maybe other things. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry if there's more questions, but I think we're going into the break already. So, yeah.
I'd keep you from your coffee.
Yes. So, here's a gift from us to you. Thanks. Thanks for giving a good talk.